Time for Don't Mess This Up, presented by Snickers. As we do every week at this time, we put up 3 big questions for the week ahead to hopefully help you not mess up your fantasy lineup. So we will start. In fact, this is, just put out there, this is an all-quarterback edition of the 3 big questions. We will start in Seattle, where Russ hasn't really been cooking all that well lately. Did have a pretty nice week last week against the 49ers, got you nearly 20 fantasy points, but until then it had been a struggle. So after what we saw last week against San Francisco, are we ready to slide back into Russ's kitchen again?
Reluctantly, yes. Partially because of who they're playing. They're playing the Houston Texans, and I mean, if he can't get the job done against the Houston Texans, what are we doing here? But even still, like, a normal Russell Wilson against the Texans for me would be like a borderline top 5 quarterback. I have him ranked at the QB 11 this week, so he is a QB 1. I think someone you could start in a 12-team league, but still not feeling super great about him and the pieces around him. It's more about the matchup.
You're right. I think under normal circumstances in past years, we're talking about this matchup and you're thinking, oh, we'll get 20, 25, maybe on a good day we'll get 30 points out of Russ. Right now I'm like, hey, if I can get 19, 20 points out of Russell Wilson, I'm feeling okay about it. So I am willing to kind of jump back in on this, but I'm with you. It's not the same level of excitement that we had for Russell Wilson earlier in the year. So you can start him. Just temper your expectations, I think, is kind of the best way to go about that. Speaking of tempered expectations, it has not been great for Lamar Jackson over the last few weeks. In fact, the Ravens offense as a whole has been sputtering, struggling to even get to 20 points in a ball game. For Lamar, it has not been particularly great. So what is your level of concern for him right now?
I'm not all that concerned about Lamar just yet. Like, I know last week, the last couple of weeks, and he did blame the illness and said, like, he didn't have his full strength 2 weeks ago. But I don't know. I still trust Lamar Jackson. He's still running. He's still, he still has Mark Andrews and Marquise Brown there catching the ball from him. So, again, another one that not quite as high as I normally have him. He's my QB 7. I have him behind Taysom Hill, who I'm very high on this week against the Jets. But I still think if you have Lamar and you've been riding with him, you could continue to do so.
I just know that, his last 3 games, he has been below 18 fantasy points, which is a little bit concerning. And the rushing numbers, again, let me put this into some context, right? He has had fewer than 70 rushing yards in his last 3 games. It's 39 yards, it's 68 yards, it's 55 yards. For most quarterbacks, that's great. For Lamar Jackson, it's kind of, you're talking about a guy who's averaging about almost 70 rushing yards per game. So for him, to be at 39 for a week is it's not great. So, but the ceiling is always high.
That's the thing. Like, you bench him, he's going to go off for like 30 points. You're going to hate yourself.
Right. Exactly. That's always the thing. I look at it as, what? If I take a star player and I have him in my lineup and he does poorly, it's because he had a poor game, right? If I take a star player and I put him on the bench and he goes off, well, then it's my fault. And I'm the idiot. Like, that's exactly how that works. So that's what you should take away from this Lamar Jackson conversation. Don't be an idiot. We're going to get to our game previews in just a bit, but our last big question, a really interesting matchup down in Tampa this week between the Buffalo Bills and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You got the top 2 quarterbacks in fantasy football facing off against one another in Josh Allen and Tom Brady. So who do you think has the bigger game in this one? And I know I'm maybe talking to somebody who's a little bit biased, but I will trust that you will be impartial here. Josh Allen, Tom Brady, who you got?
I have these 2 ranked 2nd and 3rd amongst quarterbacks, but I have Josh Allen at 2 for a couple of different reasons. One, because when I was weighing the 2, I was like, well, Allen could give me more with his legs, so that's a slight edge there. And I also think the matchup, at least on paper, I know the Bills are without Trey White now, which changes things, but the matchup on paper is more favorable for Allen. The Bucs are great against the run, weak against the pass, whereas the Bills' secondary is the strength of their defense, and we have seen lately that you can run on them. So because of that, I have Allen just higher, but I think both of them are slam dunk plays this week.
When we were filling out the rundown for this, and I was looking at this question, which, by the way, I came up with, I actually, I went back and forth a few times. I think I wrote Allen, and I deleted it. I went Brady, and I deleted it. I went Allen, and so I finally settled on Tom Brady. But that, I think, goes to show how close it is between the two of them this week. I know that obviously on Monday night the Patriots didn't test Buffalo's secondary. They threw the ball 3 whole times. I don't think that's going to be the case this week. I mean, I don't expect there to be weather like that this week down in Tampa. So I do think Brady's going to throw it a little bit more. And so I think we're going to get a test of what the Bills secondary is without Tre'Davious White. And where do you go? Who do you focus on? Is it Mike Evans? Is it Chris Godwin? Is it Gronk? Leonard Fournette can catch the ball out of the backfield. So while Brady's not going to give you those points with his legs, he does have a lot of guys to spread the football to. And so that's but again, like I literally went back and forth on this several times before I made a decision.
And I mean, Belichick and Brady ruining the Bills' seasons like old times, man.
It's like,
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Time is a flat circle. It really, really is.